Hey there, and welcome to 20 Minutes of Clarity.
I'm your host, Andy Merchant, and as you see, we have a brand new host today with our common host, Jason Noble, out of the day. We are joined by one of our great partners, Ryan, in the Charleston office, and we're excited for him to fill these giant shoes of the absent Jason Noble. But I'm sure under his leadership and guidance and partnership, I think Ryan's going to have some really good insight. The other thing is we asked Ryan to join on today's podcast was because, this is all about retirement. And over the past few weeks, many of you have submitted questions to our team. Ryan's on our retirement planning and strategy team within the Charleston, the Clear Picture Wealth team. But we really wanted to have him weigh on some of the questions because he's the one feeding so many of them. So we're excited to get this thing kickstarted. But hey, for the group, Jason, see, I'm going to be in this bad habit of calling you Jason, Ryan, so be ready for it. But
all good.
Maybe just give a quick, we got 20 minutes to conversate, but maybe just introduce yourself to the listeners so they're aware who you are.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Andy, and happy to fill in for Jason here on this beautiful Monday. My name is Ryan Shannon. I'm a lead advisor, one of the lead advisors here in the Charleston office. Have born and raised here in South Carolina. Went to school down in New Orleans, Loyola University, played a couple years of college golf down there before immediately getting into the financial planning world. It's all I've ever done professionally, and it's really what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
But happy to be, part of the podcast here today, and looking forward to going through some of these questions.
Yeah, no, we're thrilled to have you on the team, and the more golfers we can have on the team, it seems that the better the team and the guidance and advice is. There's a sense of patience that goes with being able to grow and play golf. I'm sure we'll have a podcast in the future that ties directly to that. But for the sake of our listeners and the time for today, let's jump right into this. So what we're going to do today's format for everybody that's listening is that we're just going to go through questions. Let's just start doing a drinking game and start counting every time I say Jason, and we'll see how many people stay sober. But we're just going to go through these questions, and Ryan and I are going to just flow through. We're going to kind of answer them candidly. And as a reminder, you can find this podcast plus past podcasts at clearpicturefinancial.com. And these questions that we're going to be answering will be uploaded. So we understand that we're going to go through a lot quickly, and there may be some follow-up. But if you got any questions or if any of these pertain to you and you have a specific need, call myself, go to our website, get in contact with Ryan, myself, or the rest of the team. We're happy to answer your specific questions in a little more detail. So, all right, Ryan, you ready to go? So
let's do it.
So after looking at this, one of the top questions, and I'm actually going to throw it to you on this one, because it's one of the most common ones that are out there, but it's around Social Security. For some reason, every time someone comes in our office, they're like, when do I start Social Security? We're kind of starting funny on one, but out of all the questions that came in, that was the top one. How do you kind of approach it when our client meetings around when a client should or start or delay Social Security?
Absolutely. Well, we want to start by looking at, what income do we currently have coming in off of different factors, pensions, retirement accounts. We want to look at maximizing that benefit. Do we start it early? Do we wait until full retirement age? How do these different factors, really come to the conclusion of, do we start it at 62? Do we wait till 67? Do we need that income coming in right away, or can we afford to wait because we have other income flows coming in?
Yeah, you made a good point about, do you start early or wait? I think it's an interesting comment too, that many people don't know the tax impact of Social Security. And mainly from a benefit standpoint, I think that if you're still working and you're still planning on working, you probably don't want to start Social Security before your full retirement age, because the benefits now become less of a benefit at that point, because every dollar that you earn above a threshold, you have to give back some money back to your Social Security pot, right? So, I think it is important to understand, as Ryan just mentioned, your holistic need from around cash flow. And, if you can defer, it's usually best to wait. but there's so many strategies to consider when it comes right to Social Security. So, I think the biggest one there is that when you ask, when should I start to take my Social Security, right? And the answer is, it just depends. And I think you're probably going to hear a lot of that throughout today's theme. But I think some highlights on starting Social Security is there are some benefits in delaying. There's some spousal benefits you could possibly consider and take within the strategy, but you need to consider in maybe lost benefits that you would get if you started it before full retirement age, and then possibly the impact of what your net income would be from a taxable scenario. So that's a big one. I'm glad we addressed that one right off the bat, because I think it's a common one. A second one that I might start with on this one is how do I ensure what is out there that tells me I'm okay to retire? Like, what metrics do we use as planners and advisors to help clients better understand or determine if they can retire? And what people oftentimes have referred to, and I'm really excited, Ryan, for you to chime in on this as well, but oftentimes people have always heard of the old adage of sustainable withdrawal rate, or 4%, or what's my number? You guys remember the little bouncy orange bunny that Voya had? It's like, here's my number. But we've taken it a step further with the Clear Picture Wealth Program. And what we're looking at is portfolio reliance rate has a direct impact on your sustainable withdrawal rate, or the withdrawal rate we advise. And so what that means is that if you've listened to past podcasts, we've always talked about sustainable withdrawal rate, which is really, if you think about how much money you need to live on, and you start asking yourself, where am I sourcing income? If that source of income is coming from protected income sources, Social Security, annuities, pensions, and those things, how much of that remaining income is necessary to come from your portfolio, which is why this is a key question. And so if that number is higher, say that you only need, say you need 90% or 70% of your portfolio to do the heavy lifting, right, which would be quite a bit, then the withdrawal rate would need to be much lower in order to give us confidence that it's going to be able to sustain in volatile markets. On the other side of the equation, that if we can work really hard with our clients to get the income, the sustainable rate down to where you're only depending on your portfolio of maybe doing 20 or 30% of the income lifting, then we can take a lot more risk in the volatility of the market, a little bit higher withdrawal rates. So I don't know, Ryan, how are you kind of addressing that, or how have you addressed in your past conversation with clients on how to assure they got a good, solid retirement?
Absolutely. And that's one of the most common questions we get is, when can I retire? Is there an ideal age? Is there an ideal amount that we need to have in our accounts in order to accomplish that? And I think you made a very good point of looking at portfolio reliance, that withdrawal rate. We also want to look at our cash flow and the cash flow security. We want to make sure we have income sources coming in from those passive and protected income flows to ensure that we have enough income and money coming in that we don't have to over withdraw from our accounts.
Yeah. Well, and I think, again, it's back to when can I retire, or how should I take it? It's going to come back to the common answer you're going to hear. It depends, right? That's what our team here is for. That's what Ryan's here to do, is to help look through the portfolios, look through the plan, and help identify it. So I think those are two really big questions that we fed coming in. Let me look at this. I'm going to go down a little bit down the list because I want to make sure we hit the big questions that are out there. How are you addressing, Ryan, in the conversation, questions around paying off debt, especially now with rates being kind of going up higher, but maybe clients have lower debt? How do you help a client determine what debt should be paid off, if they should pay off debt before retirement, or just continue to manage that debt through retirement?
Absolutely. And again, it kind of depends. Generally, we kind of see it as a wise decision to pay off some debts before we retire. And for a couple main reasons. It reduces the financial stress around having to, hold that debt in retirement, which then, once we pay that debt off, it'll free up more of your retirement income to do the things that you love, to go out there and enjoy retirement. And also, have money available for some of the unforeseen expenses that might arise.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, and I love how you made one point of freeing up to do the things you want or love to do. A common measurement we use in the Clear Picture Wealth Program that I know we see is when you think about in your retirement years, if you think about a 100-cent dollar that you are going to have on your earned income or your income report for the year, how much of that outflow do you want to go to the things you want to enjoy, seeing your grandkids, right? Travel into these destinations that you weren't able to do, go into some entertainment that you haven't been able to enjoy as much. But if 30% of that's going to a debt payment and 70% is going to fun, that might work. That might be a common. But what if that number moves up to where it's like 50-50? So we oftentimes look at the inflow in retirement from how much cash flow, where it's going out to. We want to try to have as much of that 100-cent dollar going to what your living expenses, to what Ryan's point was, and want to try to avoid the taxes, which is a form of debt to some degree, and then also to the ones you can control, which is your mortgages, your vehicles, and those things as well. But I do caution that in a lower interest rate environment, or someone who doesn't have maybe a large asset bucket of non-retirement assets, it might be the only option to bring on debt, because the alternative is, right, a large sum of cash flow out of retirement is probably not the best bucket, right? Because you get the tax liability and those factors. So I think it's a great point. I think a lot of people ask that. So far, just as a recap, we've identified strategies and common questions that you guys have all brought into us around when to start Social Security and the timing of that. We've identified how do you best prepare your retirement strategy to find when you can retire, and how securely we can give you peace of mind that retirement will last throughout your retirement. And now we've kind of hit the big one, which is, what debt should I get rid of? Do I need to continue to pay off debt? And I think we've addressed some pretty good questions there. So the one I want to switch to now is, now when you're thinking about all these, and I know, Ryan, you get this one a lot, clients are always asking, since I just kind of teased us with make sure it's the right bucket, what accounts, how do you kind of help a client determine what account they pull from, whether it's qualified, Roth, or taxable when you're sitting down developing their income plan? I know that's a question we got a few times.
Absolutely. And we kind of, again, it depends. We start looking at how much income do we need? What is our tax bracket? What tax bracket are we going to be in? What are those funds going to be for? Different strategies around which buckets the money's in. Are we doing a growth in income bucket? Taxable accounts, Roths. Obviously, the Roth money is coming out tax-free. But again, it really just depends what the income and tax status of the client is.
Okay. So I want to push it a little deeper, because when we say that, a lot of times when we're doing our planning, we're kind of looking at, the start date of certain assets and maybe some of our longevity plans. Can't speak today. But I know a common one that a lot of our clients are always trying to do is they retire before maybe Medicare, right? So instead of going into the whole healthcare and retirement, because we know that's a huge topic, there is some questions on that, but if we got enough of those, we'll probably have our own discussion coming up. But I'm thinking more around the lines of, how do we help a client look at their asset withdrawal rates if they're going to retire before Medicare, and maybe some importances around having a very controlled income stream on that part. So you got any thoughts on that?
I would say when we're looking at, Medicare and, the cost of insurance, I do think that warrants a little bit longer of a discussion. But we're really looking at that modified adjusted gross income, making sure that we're staying in the proper tax brackets to minimize our tax obligations as much as we can when taking these withdrawals. And like you said, the longevity, we don't want to, obviously for long periods of time, withdraw more money than is a sustainable withdrawal rate.
Yeah. And I think that those are always the key points there, and I would add that retirement and one key contributor or factor when it comes into retirement in healthcare is if you're retiring before 65, or maybe this will be a couple things that I bounce here, but before 65, you're not on Medicare, you might be having to self-insure, your premiums could be higher, and there's some income strategies or strategies we can do to reduce your healthcare as long as we keep your income low. So arriving at retirement with the right set of suitcases, you may have heard on our past 20 Minutes of Clarity podcast, we talked about arriving at your destination with the bag packed right. You don't want to show up to a beach with a bunch of winter clothes, and you don't want to show up to a winter lodge with a bunch of summer clothes, right? You got to come with the right bucket. And so those that are listening that are not yet retired, maybe in that 5 to 10 years, the real question right now is, are you filling the right suitcase? Using our fun analogy here, we want to make sure that you have the right after-tax money to take advantage of now, but then allow growth in retirement. You want that's pre-tax. The after-tax, the Roth brokerage or investment accounts that you may have, those are the ones you pay in tax on the way. Those are the ideal ones that give you that flexibility that we are just referring to when it comes to maybe pre-65 and income, because there's some tax advantages. And then you want some of that tax-free money that allows you to continue to grow. And the reason I transition to that tax-free bucket is that if you decide to retire early, before 65 or before full retirement age, and you have time up to like 73, which is what's called the RMD, or required minimum distribution age, which is the amount you have to take annually from your qualified accounts, your IRAs in retirement. We always like to say, if there's a little bit of room and we have a good tax plan, maybe we take withdrawals from that after-tax account, and it allows us to maybe do some strategic Roth conversions and get some of that money out of that after-tax bucket and a little bit more control. So as Ryan mentioned, everything here is it depends on your situation. It depends on your needs. And if you're thinking about where your buckets should be or how you should take withdrawals from your buckets, one, you got to have the buckets, and then two, you got to understand what your next 10, 20, 30 years are. So really excited about that question. All right, let's go through. We're running out of time here, so we're going to knock out one last question. I'm going to do a random pick, and I think this is a good one. Sometimes, right, Ryan, as advisors, we're in the business every single day. We understand the jargon. We understand the process. We understand all the lingo. But many of our listeners don't get to do what we do every day. They have something else a lot more fun to do, right? So maybe give an overview. If you're working today, one of the questions is what happens to my retirement savings when I retire? So let's just back this down to basic level ChatGPT response and just ask ourselves, maybe just provide an overview that if the client's out there retiring, what is the process of their money and how does it flow if maybe they start working with advisors like us?
Absolutely. Well, I think it starts kind of, as you said, looking at it holistically. When we look at income, people in their working years are receiving a paycheck from their employer. When you get to retire, those retirement accounts and the savings that you've made throughout your working years, in essence, become your new employer. You are paying yourself now the income that you need to survive throughout retirement, whether that's coming from a 401k, IRA, different accounts that might be out there. We're really looking at, how can we create that sustainable income stream from those different savings suitcases, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, and I think one of the big ones on there is, for those that are listening, if you have a bulk of your money in a 401k, which is an employer-sponsored account, that when you are making the determination to move into retirement, that's when oftentimes the Ryan, the me's, the Jason, the Sean's, and our rest of our team come in. And what our job is to do is help you convert that to an IRA, an individual retirement account, or a Roth IRA. All we're doing is shifting over the management responsibilities and education from the employer in a 401k over to an advisor-partner relationship like what we do at Clear Picture Financial and at Prime Capital as a whole. So, a lot of times that's not there, but I think an important point that, Ryan, you started to lead down there is once you get in there, oftentimes clients are like, when we present an income solution, whether that be an annuity or a yielding strategy, we often have to use different investment vehicles within that bucket. But the common buckets that you're going to have when you retire is you should have your after-tax account. You should have your IRA account that would be coming from your 401k. And if you happen to save inside of a Roth account within that 401k or throughout the years, then you would have your Roth account. Those are your three core accounts. And then we like to insulate that a little bit with insurance strategies, maybe that's cash value life insurance or annuity based, using those, or even cash management accounts for your readily liquid needs that you will encounter during retirement. So, well, everyone that's joined, thank you today. That's our 20 minutes. And Brian, I enjoyed this, man. We might have to find a different seat for Jason in the future. And I appreciate you stepping in and filling his shoes. We got through about half the questions, so likely we will tune in and have a second episode when we get back. But hey, Ryan, I appreciated the time, your insight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So enjoy the rest of the day. And Jason, when you're listening to this, we miss your brother. And thank you for everybody for tuning in to 20 Minutes of Clarity. We'll see you next time.